Philippines is dominantly a Catholic country. However, it is also home to more than 5 million of our Muslim brothers and sisters. We will discuss the Sharia law and how it is significant to not only the Filipino Muslim community, but also to the rest of the country.
PD 1083, which is the Muslim personal laws, it relates to the mu'amala. When we say mu'amala, it is limited to personal matters. That is why in the Philippines, PD 1083 was codified in 1976 in order to address the special needs of the Muslims. It is very important, no, because we have some legal concerns to address. Like for example, if you have two wives, no, where do you go for marriage? Example, to get license. You go to the civil code, it does not recognize, right? So the option for the Muslims is to go to the Sharia court in such a way that Islamic law is considered or recognized by the Philippine law as part of the law of the land. So that is really one of the rationale behind why President Marcos during his time realized the need to address this special concern for the Muslims. That is why they drafted this Code of Muslim Personal Laws, otherwise known as PD 1083.
What is the Sharia law? How does the Sharia law differ from our existing laws? Can the Sharia law be applied in the judicial system of the national government? Good evening, you are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you. I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno.
And I'm Attorney Nepomuceno. Tonight we will be discussing the Sharia law, or the body of laws that govern our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Our guest for tonight is Attorney Zarain Bantao, legal practitioner at the Bantao Ismael Law Firm.
Attorney Zar.
Hi, good evening.
Good
evening.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum to the Muslim viewers.
Wow, you're so good, Karen.
Something I learned.
Something you learned. Wow. Well, you know, I really think this is a kind of a timely discussion, lalo na in these times, no, where there seems to be there's more should I say focus for people to try to accept and try to respect other people's religions,
Yeah.
especially in
When
this
we
case
were recently-
our Muslim brothers and sisters who comprise a big chunk of the population, di ba? Right? So
And given that, for instance, this Sharia law has been around since the 1970s,
Right.
but a lot of people do not even know that it exists or that we have Sharia courts.
Right.
So it's good that now we educate all our other viewers. There
Yeah.
are over 5 million Muslims in the country.
Yeah, and then the Sharia law, you know, it encompasses, I guess, personal laws, diba? These are Muslim personal laws that have been codified.
You're
But-
correct.
Attorney Zar, yung tatanungin ko in the first place, we have in our constitution, very clearly nakalagay doon, there should be separation of church and state. And we have someone from Twitter who just asked me a few minutes ago, si Martin Cruz was asking, isn't that unfair? We are all equal in the eyes of the law. Why should they have a different law? What would be your response to this?
Well, my response to that query, Karen and Ted, is that the Muslim in the Philippines have been practicing this Sharia law, no, in totality way back 1977, 76, before the promulgation of the Code of Muslim Personal Laws, signed by the former President Marcos. So even during the time of the Spaniards, the Americans, no, Sharia law is already there. Because before the Spaniards and before the Americans and Japanese, the Muslims, no, naunang dumating yung mga Sarif Kabunsuan, these Muslim missionaries from Middle East. So I think that statement will not be not be
Apply,
good.
no?
Will
Will not
not
apply
really
for the-
apply because this is just a recognition of the Philippine government of the minority Muslims. So
Recognizing what you believe in,
recognizing
and respecting it, right?
Yes,
All right.
so
Now,
that we can practice it.
when you say Sharia law, PD 1083 is not the Sharia
It's
law.
just as the what we call this, the introduction a while ago. This is just a piecemeal of the Sharia law, because when we see Sharia law, the primary source of the Sharia law is the glorious or the Holy Quran.
Holy Quran,
That,
okay.
Karen. So
Okay,
that
which is really much older.
Yes,
Much older than
More-
even
more
any
more comprehensive.
law.
1997 Constitution, the 1935 Constitution, or other
Oo,
Constitution.
mas luma
of the
pa yung Sharia
Philippines.
law.
So very old, but shall we say, this Quran is timely suited also
Yeah.
to the
So
problem.
just to differentiate, attorney, the Sharia law, for example, in Saudi Arabia, the Sharia law is their kind of like the constitution in a way. That's their main law, right?
Yes,
Whereas
yes.
here, PD 1083 merely recognizes certain, I guess, personal laws
Yes,
that are based on the Quran, Holy Quran.
You're correct on that. This PD 1083 TED, no, the Code of Muslim Personal Laws in the Philippines is just, I think, a portion
Of that
the
big Sharia law.
because
What the
it is
Sharia
just
law
a
is.
personal law. So
Got it.
there is no such criminal law,
Right.
the commercial law, and other field
I
of
see.
laws recognized by the glorious Holy Quran.
I see.
Oo,
the
kasi I heard
Sunnah.
like for instance in Saudi, pwede kang makulong for having alcohol or drinking alcohol, which is something we
Which
don't
is something
have
that's
here,
not-
obviously. no?
And being allowed in the Philippines.
Yes.
Gambling is being allowed in the Philippines.
Otherwise,
So,
kulong tayong lahat. No?
Bawal din kumain ng pork, so bawal ng lechon dapat, di ba?
Kulong na tayong lahat.
You are
But
correct.
I have a question. How different is the Sharia law from the civil code? Kasi parang when I was reading through it, karamihan were basically personal laws. And so maybe let's highlight some of the differences. One, of course, that stood out for me, especially as a female, was the divorce. Right to divorce. Because even
Allowed.
females can divorce their husbands for failure to support, for consistent abuse, which is, I think, more empowering pa nga for women. So, can you give us some highlights, yung main differences?
Well, of course, the main difference of this Sharia law and the civil law you're speaking of, Karen, is that Sharia law is a divine law. So it is based on the holy or glorious Quran. So all the provisions of the Sharia law were worded or words coming from Almighty Allah. So whereas the civil law comes from our legislators. So this is a man-made law.
Yeah.
The legislator of the Quran is the Almighty Allah. Whereas the legislator of the civil law is, of course, the members of the Congress.
Parang no match, no? The other one is the word of Allah. The other one is just words of Congress. Parang no match, no?
Yes.
So
Pero,
let's
so
give
going
us
back
some
to your
differences.
second
Yeah.
question, no? So I'm going to your question
Ano
now,
yung mga
Karen,
specifics dyan
that
regarding divorce?
no? So divorce really, there is a provisions or sunnah, if I'm not mistaken, that divorce is, although permitted or legal, but in the eyes of Allah, this is most hated in the eyes of Allah.
Most hated.
Most hated that.
Really? But it's allowed, but it's hated.
Yes, the wording of that sunnah is that among the permitted, divorce is the most hated in
He
the sight of
he cannot
Allah.
But for
tolerates
our
it.
Muslim
But-
citizens in the Philippines,
Yes, so
based on the grounds in the Sharia law, they can get a divorce.
yes, divorce is the last remedy among the spouses. So if you observe and you are you read the 1083 presidential 1083, there is this period of idah.
Yeah.
The
Which is the waiting period, no?
Waiting period, the 4 months period in the case of the death of the husband, the divorce, 3 menstrual period, no, etc., etc. So if you notice, Karen, Sharia really does not encourage divorce. Having said that, Karen, divorce, no, the divorce is a little bit giving empowerment, as you said a while ago, to the women, no? In the Philippine setting, we are very much aware that many of the spouses now are
Going through difficult times.
difficult times,
The
filing
wives, yeah.
annulment.
Yeah.
So in Islam, maybe the Almighty Allah anticipated this problem already. So this is more giving to the spouses rather than living together under the
Right. But
And I have a
hatred.
so in
go ahead.
relation to divorce, curious lang tuloy ako
Okay,
bigla
okay.
because it is harder to get an annulment.
Yeah.
How does the Muslim system or Sharia courts or yung filter, yung mga magko-convert to Muslim just to get a divorce?
Well, the question as to the conversion to the religion of Islam is a matter of faith. No? So it is now the question or the relationship of that person converted to Islam to Almighty
To
Allah.
Almighty Allah.
So it is as if that I am a Christian or I am a Muslim nominally, but in practice I'm not doing that. All the
I guess it's between you and Allah. If
between
you
you
only
and Allah.
converted for the sake
So
of divorce,
if the purpose of these Filipino people or even foreigner in converting to Islam is other than this
The real faith.
the embracing of the Islam, then that's already
Alright.
their problem.
right?
I have more questions about
Yeah, I have
this.
so
Very
many.
interesting laws, no?
But our
Yeah.
it looks like our televiewers have a couple of questions as well. So that's.
I
let's-
think we can address the
Yeah.
questions after the
Alright.
break. Let's take a short break. Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders. You're still watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel, and we are still joined by our guest, Attorney Zarain Bantao of the Bantao Ismael Law Firm.
Okay, marami tayong questions. No? We have some questions from our viewers regarding the Sharia law. Our first question is from Gerard, and he asks us, there are so many misconceptions about polygamy. Can you please explain the practice? Can a Muslim man marry 4 wives at once? Also, I heard that before a man marries another woman, he has to seek the permission of the first wife. Is this correct?
As to the first question that Rod, no, this question on polygamy, we really don't practice polygamy. Under the Islamic law, what is being allowed is the plurality of marriage. When you say polygamy, it includes the women. So in Islam, what is being allowed is only the man to marry at least 4 at one instance.
So you mean sunod-sunod or yung
Can
sa
it be on the
question
sa-
niya
can
hindi
it be on the
pwedeng
same-
sabay-sabay?
Can it be at the same time? Like I'm marrying 4 at the same time?
As to that question, no, you can revisit first the provisions of the 1083 and the condition being imposed by the Sharia law. And what are those conditions? No? First condition is there must be an observance of the equal companionship and treatment among the wives.
So dapat kaya mo silang bigyan ng
Bigyan ng
sarili,
special-
oo, ng
Yeah.
equal time.
So I think financially, the financial capability of the Muslim must be considered also. The health of the Muslim
If he
must be
complies with
considered.
all of that, he can give equal time, can support all of them financially, he can have more than one wife then?
Oh, well, that is the provisions of the 1083. But I doubt if this is being allowed under 1083 current. The provisions of the subsequent marriage under 1083 there must be a notification to the clerk of the Sharia Circuit
I
Court,
see.
Sharia Court. So, having said
by implication,
so
there has to be a
compliance of that provision. Otherwise, you will be liable of the offenses
There has to be a
under
note. There has to be
1083.
notice.
So kailangan may note, hindi pwedeng sabay-sabay.
Mahirap yung
Kailangan,
pagsabay-sabahin.
but you can marry more than one wife
And that
basta
is-
you comply
there's no
with the
question on
requirements.
that.
Speaking about that, we have a revised penal code and we all know na you clarified earlier, pag Sharia law mostly about personal
Personal
relationships. So, paano naman if you have a person, a man na merong more than one marriage and then nagpakasal after, tapos bago siya ma-file ng kaso for polygamy or bigamy, nag-convert siya to Muslim. Is that a defense?
We should revisit the provision of the revised penal code on the crime punishable by bigamy. No, I think the defense of raising the defense that
conversion.
conversion. So the first element, Karen, you must be a Muslim at the time of first marriage, and then the subsequent marriage, you must also
So
be
they
a
can't
Muslim.
use it as an excuse.
So you cannot
you
use
cannot.
it.
Yeah.
Although
that's
may
right.
iba, diba? What about marrying several wives? Is there a way for the Sharia law or the system to check kung
Yeah.
if they're legitimately Muslims or they just want to marry several
Let's say
women?
he had a
Oo.
polygamous. He had 2 wives, got married under maybe Christian, but later on decided, okay, just to correct this, I'm gonna convert to
No,
Muslim.
but
and
according to Attorney Czar, that would be bigamy. Pero
That's already bigamy,
those who want to just have several wives, meron nga ako dati narinig na chismis, yung isang famous actor daw kaya naging Muslim
Kilala
just
ko
to have
yan.
several wives. So, is there a way
yeah.
for the system to disqualify those kinds of conversions?
The conversion to Islam is not a matter to be decided by the Sharia court, neither by the Muslim people. It is a question or a relationship between the man being converted to Islam and Allah.
Almighty Allah.
So we are not the
You
right
cannot
person
judge a person.
to judge
Right.
a person. But having said that, Karen, the provisions of the 1083,
Would
yes,
would allow it.
there are some provisions in this law that there will be requirements before you can engage a subsequent marriage. So we can discuss that little by little.
Okay.
Rod.
We have another
Marami
question
yan.
from Mary,
Maraming
and she
topics.
asks, I'm Catholic and now engaged to my Muslim boyfriend. Do I have to convert so that our marriage would be legal under Sharia law? He wants us to marry under Islamic rights.
In order your boyfriend to be happy, married,
To be happy.
then you should be Muslim.
Yeah.
But just kidding, the provision of 1083 Rod, Karen, no? I'm always answering under this code.
Yeah.
Because this is
That's
our
what we're-
guide.
yeah.
No? We cannot speak of the Sharia law as the
As a whole, yeah.
Yes, the provisions of this 1083, particularly Article 3, Title 2 of this code, Karen, is one of the exceptions, even if one of the parties is not a Muslim, no? So long as the male party is a Muslim and the women is non-Muslim, then it is allowed, provided that the marriage was solemnized in accordance with the
With
Muslim
Islamic
rights and
rights.
with the provision of this
Okay,
code.
so in this case, Mary does not have to convert the person
Yes,
who's
has to be.
asking us.
yes, that's the
Alright.
answer.
Good news to
Alright.
Mary. But he
Alright.
said to be happy, yung husband you have to convert.
Magpa-convert
Alright.
ka.
All right, we have another question. Edward is asking via Twitter, and I have a follow-up question actually. Does the Sharia law have a prenuptial agreement, or does it recognize prenuptial agreements? And I think let me ask first, before I answer that, the default regime of property relations of married couples under Sharia law is separation of property, right?
In the absence of any contract, Ted, no, we are lawyers, no, then the regime of complete separation of property will apply.
Will apply, yeah.
So this prenuptial
Prenuptial
agreement
agreement,
is
yeah.
being recognized also under 1083.
Ah, it is,
So
okay.
if there will be a contract between Rod and Karen that the party will get married, then there will be a prenuptial agreement, then it is allowed.
We can agree that it's absolute community of property.
Yes, you can agree.
okay.
Whatever the community, the property regime you want to govern your marital relationship.
All right.
And then AB is asking via Twitter, if a Muslim couple wants to get a divorce, what is the process and how long before the ruling will be given?
Well, no, kidding aside, annulment is a long and tedious process. You will have this filing of the case, the
Yeah.
same case with the...
So for Muslims, you
Annulment.
also have to file divorce.
No,
Divorce
yeah,
as
Yeah,
well.
and
mentioning
divorce, no, I'm just mentioning the annulment for
Annulment,
comparison, no? Sinabi ko na yung annulment medyo mahaba. No?
Tedious, yeah.
But if you're going to read the 1083, no, this Code of Muslim Personal Laws, Rod Karen, then we will be enlightened that in the divorce by talak, no, repudiation, then this is one of the easiest way to
Ito ba
put an
yung
end to the
talak?
vinculum.
This is when you say, I divorce you?
Yes, Karen.
So it says the term is repudiation. So I repudiate you,
Yes.
and it has to be within her a period, right?
Oo nga. That's a good thing you should bring up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of yung misconception,
Yeah.
parang usually some of my friends say, be careful when you marry a Muslim. Kasi sabihan ka lang na, I divorce you 3 times, divorce na kayo, iiwanan ka na ng husband mo. But siguro this is something you can clarify.
Yeah, even once, the first repudiation, you can do it. The the Muslim husband can do it, no?
But not during her period, right?
Not during his period.
So that's even a consideration. No divorce by talak during the menstrual period of the woman.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, the thing, there must be a case filed before the Sharia court. No?
Okay.
So
A case filed?
The case must be
okay.
filed
For-
before this.
For you to repudiate your wife.
Yes.
All right,
But under this concept of divorce by talak, really, you must notify the clerk of the circuit court under the 1083. So after notification, the parties in these cases in the divorce of talak, this is one of the easiest way to put an end to the vinculum juris between the husband and wife. So after notifying the clerk of court of the circuit court, Sharia circuit court, the clerk of court of the circuit court will ask the parties to nominate a representative. So after nominating these representatives, at least one, the husband and the wife, one representative, then there will be a constitution of the Agama Arbitration Council. So they will
arbitration
decide
then.
what are
I
the.
see.
So after that, after having said that, then there must be also an observance of this period of Ida, the waiting period.
The waiting period.
Yes.
Okay. Meron pang other questions. So, now, what kind of cases daw can be filed under the Sharia court?
There are other cases, the marriage and divorce, the
I think solemnizing of parang irregularity and
as to the offenses. If
Yeah.
you're going to ask me as to the offenses, the criminal offenses, there are at least 5 recognized under
May
1083.
criminal offenses.
Yes.
What are those?
What are those?
Definitely yung against the ampatuans, not part
course.
of the...
Oh, that's
Discovered by
different.
the
Yeah.
revised penal code
Yes.
and other special laws.
so that's in the regular
Yeah,
court.
of course.
Okay.
But
What
then-
about, what types
What are
of
the
criminal cases?
what are the criminal cases?
Of course, the illegal solemnization of the marriage,
Illegal,
the non-compliance with the
waiting period.
waiting period,
Waiting period, yeah.
the subsequent marriages, the
Okay.
divorce, so the neglect of the registrar to the duty of the registrar to record these matters.
What about personal conflicts? Kunwari, away ng dalawang Muslims with each other. And it's a
Business matter. Ganun.
business matter, or it can be a personal damage. Kunwari, it's really nagsuntukan and there are 2 Muslims involved, so it can be a civil case for damages normally under our civil code. Can that go to the Sharia court?
They can carry on, provided that there will be a contract. One of this is that they have a contract. The only exceptions to this is that the ejectment and unlawful detainer contract, provided that the parties are all
Ejectment
Muslims.
and unlawful detainer.
Unlawful.
So those are
so
mga in
ejectment
relation
and
to
lawful
property,
detainers
no?
between Karen.
Okay.
Right.
And what about appealing cases?
Yeah.
Kunwari, someone has won in the Sharia court. Can they appeal to the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court later on, or are they limited to the decision in the
The
Sharia?
hierarchy of court under 1083, the lower court in 1083 is the Sharia Circuit Court. So if you lose in the Sharia Circuit Court, you're allowed under the law to appeal your case to the Sharia District Court. So after appealing to the Sharia District Court, you can also appeal directly to the Supreme Court via Rule 65.
No more Court of
No more
Appeals.
Court of Appeals.
No more Court of Appeals because there is no Sharia appellate court.
But only on
directly-
questions of law, right?
Only questions of law.
All right.
So basically, the Sharia courts are still part of the Philippine legal system.
course,
It's
and
not
then-
like they're autonomous or independent from it, no?
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
And our
Yeah.
next question is from Herbert, and he's asking, if the Sharia law recognizes divorce, will government agencies like the NSO recognize it too?
They must, because this is part of the purpose of the codification of the Muslim personal laws. The same case with annulment. If you got this favorable decision, you are going to notify the local civil registrar where you
Right.
filed your case, and after that, the local civil registrar where the marriage was celebrated. So, having said that, Karen, Rod, so kailangan i-recognize ito ng National Statistics
So
Office.
you can
Otherwise,
request for a certificate of divorce from the National
From the-
a
Statistics
from the-
Office.
certificate of decision first from the court
From the Sharia
that
court,
you are
yeah.
really divorced
Yeah.
by virtue of the decision of the Sharia judge. So you're going to forward that decision to the local civil registrar where the marriage was solemnized. So after complying with that, then the local civil registrar where the marriage was solemnized, they're going to forward it to the National Statistics Office for annotation in the yun doon sa mga gilid-gilid.
Ah,
Right.
So
okay. Very
annotated, blah, blah,
interesting.
blah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Something
interesting
kasi,
things about marriage, particular. Like for example, yung age. The age of marriage
age
of
is
men and
different,
women
yes.
is different from what is provided in the family code, right?
Oo.
Under the Sharia law, you can get married if you're 15, right?
In the civil code or family code, Rod, you must be of legal age.
Ang legal age for marriage is?
Yes, and we know that 18 years
18
old.
to, 18 up.
18 up, no?
Pero
In 1083, the age of puberty for the case of women.
So it can be even
Yes,
younger than 15.
younger
as long as
than
they've
15,
puberty.
but there is limitation under 1083, but not lower than
Yeah.
age of 12.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
12 above.
Okay,
Wow.
12 above.
Wow. Here's the thing. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. We have so many questions, questions pouring in. Siguro, maybe what we can do, maybe our televiewers can
Ask
just
it on Facebook
ask it on
or
Facebook
Twitter,
and
yeah.
or Twitter, and we'll ask Attorney Zar.
Zar
no?
after, yeah.
All right. So I'd like to thank our guest, Attorney Zarain Bantao of the Bantao Ismael Law Firm, for being with us tonight in explaining the Sharia law. I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno.
And I'm Attorney Karen Jimeno. Join us again next Monday as we discuss the RH law. Good night.